We want to show you, joining us this morning is Dr. Victoria Stewart from Wayne State University. She's really focused her work on the Fitzgerald and how society has remembered the crew. Good morning to you. Let's talk about your research in the social memory of this tragedy. We've certainly seen it more in pop culture over the last couple of years. Why would you say that is?
I'd say anytime you have a banner anniversary, such as 50 years, it causes people to pause and really, take a moment to think about its meaning, both as it happened and over the course of time. So it's only natural that with this many years having passed, that people will stop and reflect.
Yeah, and you've certainly heard that song that
Mhm.
came out in the years after the shipwreck be played over and over. I mean, I've heard it on social media. I've heard younger crowds really take hold of that too.
Yeah, and I don't know if they know the full story behind what that song is about, but it seems that the Fitzgerald does hold a really special place in Michigan's memory. What do you think makes this particular tragedy so enduring?
Well, I think, of course, I mean, a massive part of that is the fact that this song exists to keep it in our minds and keep it in our memories. But the other part is that this was the last major freight disaster that caused such, death in the Great Lakes. And so it was a ship that was very much beloved before the sinking. It was a ship that had a good reputation throughout the Great Lakes chain. And it was a ship that had connections throughout much of the Great Lakes chain, all the way from, Milwaukee, which was its home port, where it really didn't spend a lot of time, all the way down to Detroit, where it was born and headed on that night.
Yeah, and of course you are seeing a lot of those remembrance ceremonies take place, not only at Whitefish Point. I know Detroit has had some things over the last couple of days as well. I would imagine over in Wisconsin, they're also remembering the Fitzgerald as well. When you hear people talk about this shipwreck now 50 years later, what is the thing that you hear people most remember about the Fitzgerald or the tragedy that happened that night?
Well, for people who were old enough to have been alive when it happened, they remember where they were when they heard about it a lot of times. This weekend here in Detroit, there have been a lot of commemorations, and I've been honored to get to attend many things and meet people who had sometimes an indirect personal connection, sometimes personal connections through these commemorations. And many of them do spend that time talking about where they were, how they learned, how it made them feel, and how going forward they continue to, their feelings continue to evolve and develop and grow with new information.
Yeah, your studies there at the Wayne State University, can you talk about them? How have you focused your work around the Fitzgerald?
Right. So I should say I'm the assistant director of the Humanities Center on campus. And so I do public oriented work that collaborates with community members. And so for the Edmund Fitzgerald anniversary, we decided at the Humanities Center to create an exhibit as a pop up that we would show at various commemorative events here in Detroit. And so for this exhibit, what we decided to focus on was the Detroit story of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Again, the ship was built right south of Detroit in Ecorse. It was launched just north of Ecorse and south of Detroit in River Rouge, and was headed to Zug Island, which is an industrial island that processes materials just south of Detroit as well. And so this is also an important part of the Detroit story, apart from also the very famous Mariners Church bell ringing that happened the morning after people knew that the ship had been lost. So what I am interested in looking at is both how Detroit remembers it through different landmarks that have been created, and also through the landscape that the Edmund Fitzgerald went through and kind of used and interacted with during its lifetime. So I do like to highlight the fact that, Detroiters, we do have special memories of the ship that are our own. And that's what this exhibit commemorated. So, and it's kind of the tip of the iceberg. Like, this is my first round of looking into the way that the Edmund Fitzgerald lives in Detroit memory, and it certainly opened up things I want to investigate for years to come.
Yeah, it seems like this is something that would take a long time to get some of the artifacts for this exhibit together. How do you even go about putting something like this together for people to stop and reflect on the 50 years since the tragedy?
Well, luckily, in my case, what I did is a pop-up exhibit, and so it's just text and visual imagery, and it's being displayed at places that already have the materials. So it is being displayed at both the Mariners Church and the Dawson Great Lakes Museum. I've been moving back and forth over the past several days to show it at each spot. And so what I'm doing is enhancing and kind of adding to the story that both of these sites tell with the artifacts that they have on hand. So I was kind of, I was kind of lucky in that this was more of something that could be done with text and images that already existed. And again, it's just something to enhance the great works that both the Dawson and the Mariners Church have been doing for decades now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, if you had any final takeaways of what you hope people remember from the Fitzgerald, what would those be?
I would say that, Detroit and Milwaukee and Superior, Wisconsin, Whitefish Point, all throughout the Great Lakes chain, the Edmund Fitzgerald is a story that resonates. A huge reason for that, of course, is the song by Gordon Lightfoot that we hear today and we'll be hearing all day, I'm sure. But it's something that connects us all in a variety of ways. People built that ship, people sailed on it, people loaded and unloaded the ore that went on it, and people waved at it on the banks as it went along different parts of the Great Lakes chain. So the Edmund Fitzgerald is very much a Great Lakes story, and it's something that we all can take part in and reflect upon.
All right. Well, Dr. Victoria Stewart from Wayne State, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking about this tragedy now 50 years later. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.